Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We are out on the pile of rubble known as our launch pad today with the Artemis 4M. This is our all-up test run. As you can see, I've made some changes to the capsule and the Artemis pod itself. Few changes to the hab module, but we will get into all of that a little later. We are going to be taking this up to the Tremonia station, both to bring them life support and to cycle out one of our scientists. We've given Glenn Armstrong the control stick today, seeing as how he has the most experience with the previous generation Artemis craft. I feel like he is probably best suited to fly this one as well. So, SAS is on, throttle is set to full. Relative inclination is down to 0.01, so we will start the ignition sequence here. Let them all get spooled up a bit. Looks like we're running, and let's get these clamps off. Yes. And our total surface thrust to weight ratio currently is 1.12, which is a little underwhelming, admittedly, but we saw it work really well in test runs. Now I have made a few changes affecting our weight and balance, but as you can see we actually have a better thrust to weight ratio now than we did in our initial test. So I'm really assuming this one's going to go pretty well, and I think overall the launch vehicle looks a whole lot better. But I need to focus on this inclination thing and the getting us to a rendezvousable orbit, so I will pick all of you up, I don't know, in orbit. Unless of course anything interesting happens. Fingers crossed, that's not the case. Oh no, I did not just stage the rocket. Oh boy. Oh, crap. Well. This is certainly disappointing, but we're going to plummet into the ground, so we're going to pull the abort. Yeah, the abort tower works. Oh, no. This is going to be a short episode. Oh, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt so bad. Yeah, I guess it didn't hit the ground as hard as I thought it would. Oh, there's the rest of it. Yeah, there's our HG3 stage. Well, that was certainly less than satisfying, and I think I do need probably a couple extra rockets on this thing. It did not pull this capsule away nearly as fast as I would have liked. Great. Good job, everybody. Oh, you know, we get to recover most of it. Yeah, that was a resounding success. We get to keep most of our rocket. Long way, obviously. Yes, here we go. So what survived over here? Oh, man, this stage is completely intact. Looks like our service module made it too. There's some spoilers. Yep. And there's our hab. Anyway, I guess we'll roll out the backup. Alright. Backup is rolled out. The inclination has been accounted for. SAS is on. Throttle is set to full. Ignition sequence start. And that's a good liftoff. Now, removing my hand squarely from the keyboard so that I do not accidentally tap spacebar again. I'm going to fly this monstrosity to orbit, hopefully without any further incident or stupidity. And I will pick all of you up there. Alright, well, first off, my greatest apologies for the audio seeming like everything is underwater. I'm still trying to dial in this this new microphone setup, and I obviously made some changes that were not very good. So I've done you all the great favor of reducing the volume, at least for this launch sequence, which would normally be pretty loud. I just have a feeling I misplaced a filter somewhere. Anyway, I promise I will get it sorted out very soon. Anyway, changes for this Artemis since our last simulation test flight, this being our first all-up actually built and doing something kind of test flight. I have made the Artemis shorter and expanded its width from 4 meters to I think 4.5 meters. Reasons for this were twofold. One, and most importantly, it looks a whole lot less awkward sitting on the top of that rocket, which had a very drastic change from like the 9-meter HG3 upper stage, or kind of quasi S4B thing, and the 4-meter original diameter. Just it looked weird. Anyway, the second reason being, if we can get it as short as possible, it stands a better chance of sitting behind that heat shield when it goes to aero capture at Mars. Escape tower's done cleaning away. We can now abort to orbit if anything happens, or if I miss stage again. Anyway, keeping our total payload as like the lengthwise down means we can sit better behind that heat shield, and we'll have less of a chance of anything poking out, overheating, and exploding. It seems the most aft portion of the spacecraft that will be exposed during that aero capture maneuver is going to be the engine bell on the Artemis itself, and we cannot lose that engine. That's our means to get home. So I do plan another redesign pass of the habitation module. We'll get a better look at that a little bit later. But it mostly involves thruster placement and trying to make it a little shorter. So it actually, calling it a redesign is probably a misnomer. It's probably going to be a complete ground-up rebuild thing, but we'll probably get to that later. We've got a good year and a half or so before our next window, and we've got a bunch of other things to build for this next Mars window. There's a lot of things I want to send out. So a lot of angling down here in the extreme sense, trying to keep our orbit under control, and a very early shutdown of the engine, about 1 kilometer per second left in there before we staged it off. And this HG3 upper stage we are actually not going to use at all. It is time tested and proven. I'm not worried about its ability to perform whatsoever. We've seen it work. The tank type is pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to go ahead and crack these fairings off and go ahead and try to spin ourselves around to dock with our habitation module and pull it free of the HG3 upper stage, which of course I managed to screw up right off the bat. Thruster placement is not really the big issue here, as it usually is for me. It's thruster strength. This Artemis is very, very heavy. Even compared to the previous generation, the Artemis 3, I think this has probably a solid 15 or 20 tons on it. And the thrusters we're using just don't give me the torque I would like, really, to maneuver this thing effectively. So they're definitely going to get another pass before we go into our Mars mission. Probably a balanced pass after that, but I think if this test flight goes well, I don't imagine we'll have another all-up test even after the redesigns. Mostly because they're really expensive to make. They take a long time to produce. And, you know, I've already blown one up on accident. This one was supposed to be the one that I could just edit before going to Mars, not the one that was going to be launched before as a testing method. You know, I built two, one I was going to test on. All right, we're docked. Anyway, you get the point. We will jettison our heat shield. Yeah, that's one more thing we're going to have to detonate in orbit. We will deploy our solar panels on the Artemis, and then of course our solar panels on the Artemis, or on the HAB module, which I forgot to rotate 45 degrees offset to get maximum exposure. And we will blow our service hatch. We have these KIS pods for which we can bring tools, supplies, replacement parts, any other of these nifty things that we might need. But I'm going to turn you back over to old me for some not underwater sounding magic. Okay, well, this is our standard configuration. Of course, I would have liked to have these offset by about 45 degrees to one another. Let's check our power draw. Yeah, we are charging our batteries. That is excellent, even though they're probably not all getting the best of sunlight, but it still works. This is our slightly updated habitation module. I do think I'm going to give it another pass, seeing as how we've got a lot more room to work with. Man, this thing is going to be so much fun to dock. It is so heavy and just does not move very well at all. So, I'm glad we have it up here. I'm glad that we're seeing that, for the most part, all of our systems are checking out. Reset our target here, and we're going to have to replot our node for our rendezvous thing. Shouldn't take all that much. We're just going to try to match at least one side of the orbit, and then it'll take us a couple of laps to get to where we need to be. That burn is in 16 minutes. I should probably turn on our engine. Activate. There's our delta V figure. Good. 56 meters per second. Shouldn't be that bad. Yeah, well, with the added help from the ab module, this thing actually doesn't turn all that badly, although I should be able to disable the RCS ports on the capsule now, so we're not draining all of that fuel that I like to keep in reserve for our descent to Earth. Yeah, look at that. Jeez. Just eats through the fuel, doesn't it? Oh, there's our node. Derp, derp, derp. Come on. Come on. Nope. Okay, well, we're just gonna warp on out. I don't imagine a 56 meter per second correction will take us more than just a couple of minutes. I could be entirely wrong on this, though. So, I mean, it's good to find out, though, because I'm assuming we're going to have to go through some of this stuff at Mars also. I know we will, actually. Ullage, ullage, ullage. Ignition. We have a good light. Minute and 4 seconds. It's not bad. I did succeed in increasing our relative inclination a little bit. Maybe I'll switch those thrusters out for quads plus those. And I should probably switch these base thrusters and these thrusters up here for these big ones, just to give us a little more torque in these turning about kind of things. Alright, there's a shutdown. Not too bad. 419. So I guess at every step we are above their orbit. 420 by 518. So we're just going to give this a couple of laps to let them catch up to us. Probably monitor power draw. Looking good. Alright, that is almost an encounter. So let's try to plot this node. See if we can't turn it into one. About 4 kilometer. I'll take that. So it looks like we're maintaining our electric charge even on the nighttime side of the orbit. That is excellent. Plenty of food, water, and oxygen. What's our total endurance? Actually, yeah, 1 year and 56 days. Perfect. Right, ullage, ullage, ullage. Ah, vapor and feed lines. Come on, ullage. There we go. We're a little ahead of the bar here, but I thought this burn was going to take a solid minute. It is not. It's going to take 45 seconds. Of course it is. Alright, we're going to kill it a little early just so I can try to be a little more accurate here. Oh, that is in fact increasing our separation to closest approach. That is opposite the goal. Yeah, like 3 kilometers to go, and these thrusters are not the most hard-hitting thing. I will just kind of hang out here and hold down the key. Well, kind of throughout, I would switch whatever key I was hitting just to see what was giving me the most rapid change in my distance at closest approach figure. And get rid of that node just because I wanted to. And then hit all the keys until we get this down to a more reasonable number. Alright, we'll take 400 meters for the win right now. Have mech plot us a node to match velocities. Bird will take 1 minute. It's 57 meters per second in 25 minutes. So let's go ahead and warp on out. Alright, time to get ourselves angled in. Means turning your RCS back on, silly. Activate CO2 scrubber. That is going to work, right? Yeah, okay, good. It's scrubbing. Where are you going, dude? Ignition? If you just stay pointed at that node, that'd be really great. Honestly. Come on. Yep. Render range. There she is. Alright, we're going to shut down the engine a little early. I know we got 12 meters per second to go, but we're going to let it coast for about a minute until we get within that 283 or so meter area, and then we'll wax the last of this 12 meters per second off and go ahead and pull ourselves into a parking spot. Not bad, not bad. Just try to clean the rest of this up. Definitely see the need to upgrade the thrusters on this. And so begins the speddy uppy bit of a long and arduous docking process with a very, very heavy spacecraft that just kind of lacks the available thrustery torque. Moved some fuel around to adjust the center of mass, and then played a lot with the bouncing space station in physics time warp, which makes it shift off to the side. Accidentally hit the regular time warp, which displaced the space station way over there. So now we'll have to redo our approach again. Again, exploiting physics time warp. Now that we're back someplace close, we can set our target for our standard docking port that we usually dock our shuttle to. Now that we're within range, time warp no longer causes things to displace weirdly. So we will try to zero out some of this relative velocity, as well as keeping ourselves lined up, but instead scrape some paint and change the camera around a whole lot. I'm sure that's pleasant to look at in sped up footage. But it did cause me to back off, try to approach again, and then violate my rule about not reorienting the space station for docking. This thing is just so heavy and so cumbersome to turn that it really was just easier to move Tremonia Station into position. It was just a rotational maneuver, so maybe it wasn't that bad. But yeah, we're way off angle. And trying to adjust for it proved kind of painful. And it always wants to overcompensate for me. So there really is no just coasting. Yeah. And so we'll pivot around on this docking port for a good long while in case it wasn't dinged up enough. Back ourselves off. Try to realign. realign the station, put ourselves in line with it. Well, after a whole lot of readjusting and trying to make sure that we're on a solid approach. Yeah, and now we'll angle the station in. We'll re-angle our Artemis, and then just start to coast in with a little bit of somatic beauty. And there's hard dock. Oh god, finally. Jeez. That took entirely too long. But we're here, we got it done. I'm pretty satisfied. After I get this quick save, I will be anyway. Ah, thank goodness. And now we can transfer over all the goods, because as you can see, they were running quite low. Yes, out, out, out. Won't be enough to fully stock the station for any means, but we are on the verge of really discontinuing the service of this station. I think we've mined just about all the science from it we can. Actually, where's that review report? Let's put that in the lab for 0 science. Good enough for me. Whatever. Gives them something to work on. What do we have stored in here? 2 science. They have no data. So, yeah, it's about what we got left. So, anyway, now that we got this done, we can go about getting all our things transferred, etc., etc. I will take care of all of that. Probably off camera. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.